This video is sponsored by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform to easily and efficiently build and manage your own website. Hi everyone, I'm FlagonHG, and this is the video of my attempts at a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokémon Emerald, using only Water Type Pokémon. To see what I define as Hardcore Nuzlocke Rules, check out the description below. But in short, no items in battle, no overleveling past the gym leader's ace before the start of the battle, and we're playing on set mode. There are a lot of water Pokémon, and there's a lot of water in Hoenn. Some might say too much. With so many water types available in Pokémon Emerald, surely this challenge can't be that hard, right? Wrong. See, what you might not know is that I actually suffer from an incurable disease called being stupid. It's quite common in men my age. And one of the side effects of this disease is making a bunch of negligent mistakes during challenge runs that I assume are easy and therefore hastily speed through without any proper planning or preparation during major fights. So if you're looking for a perfectly executed challenge run, then this video isn't for you. Maybe check out one of my other videos. I play pretty well in most of them. But if you're looking for a challenge run filled with high-stakes misplays and water Pokémon dropping like flies, then this video is the one for you. Buckle up, buckaroo, because here we go. Just as a quick reminder, before we start, I play with Species Clause, so I'll be able to re-roll encounters until I get a unique encounter, but I can only use one of each unique evolution line. Okay, let's do it. The story starts when it was hot and it was summer, and I had the choice between 3 adorable little Pokémon to be my starter for the challenge. Obviously, I go with Mudkip. After saving Professor Birch from the terrors of being slowly eaten alive by a rabid level 2 Zigzagoon, Mudkip joins the team and I name him Aquafina. And then, after defeating our rivals Trico, Aquafina and I get to start catching team members. There's a surprising number of water types available right off the bat even before we get a fishing rod. First, from Route 103, I catch a Wingull and name her Dasani. She tastes like melted plastic, but she'll be very useful in this playthrough. Then I catch a Lotad on Route 102 and name him Perrier. He'll also be very useful in this playthrough. And then fourth is Vitamin the Marill from Route 104. We actually luck out and he has the ability Huge Power, but without the physical special split, this Pokemon is not nearly as good as it is in later generations. With a bit more leveling up, Perrier evolves into Lombre. I honestly can't think of a Pokemon with a worse move pool than Generation 3 Lombre. It's a crime that he can't learn a single water-type attacking move until level 49. The only stab move that this poor bastard gets before that is Absorb with 20 base power. This Pokemon was done completely dirty. Regardless, Perrier is able to easily sweep Roxanne's gym for badge number 1. I know, I bet you weren't expecting the Rock-type gym to be an easy sweep in the Water-type Monologue, huh? Her nose pass is actually pretty bulky, so it does take a few turns for her to go down, especially because Roxanne loves to use healing items. Fortunately, in Gen 3, the AI only uses moves like Rock Tomb to lower speed. Once the opposing Pokemon is slower, Nosepass will actually switch to Tackle, so we're never in any real danger here. That's badge number 1. After that, I get coerced into becoming a child delivery man for the richest man in Hoenn. Why he wants a small boy to deliver a letter to his wayward son instead of calling him on the Pokénav is something that I don't really have the time to unpack, but it does mean that we're off to Dewford Town to find Steven. Before delivering this top-secret letter, though, I mingle with the locals, and a fisherman gives me an old rod, which means I can start fishing up some new friends. Right away in Dewford Town, I fish up a Tentacool. I name him Essentia. Then I head a few tile spaces east and fish up a Magikarp, and I name him Poland Springs. Or Poland Spr, technically. After that, I head to Petalburg City, where I fish up a Goldeen. I name her Deer Park. And now we've got a full team of 6 slippery swimmers, with Poland Springs camping out in the box. These will be the only encounters I get until after the 5th gym badge though, so I better make them count. Up next, Aquafina evolves into Marshtomp. Then we make our way deep into Granite Cave and deliver the letter to Steven. Again, not sure why Mr. Stone insisted on writing out the contents of this letter by hand, but maybe he has his reasons. With that, it's time to face the 2nd gym leader, Brawly. In preparation, Vitamin evolves into Azumarill. Not that it matters though, because Dasani actually sweeps through Brawly's team all by herself. Wing Attack isn't ever a one-shot, but Machop wastes time setting up a bulk up, and Meditite can't actually do any damage as long as you keep attacking, since he only knows Focus Punch. I also make sure to waste Brawly's super potions here on the Meditite, so that Makuhita is easier to manage. Once the Makuhita comes out, a few wing attacks take him out too, as he's only able to get off a single Vital Throw. So that wins us a fairly easy second gym badge. On our way to Mauville City, we do have to fight our rival May, who is kinda tricky since she has one of the few grass types in the game that we'll actually have to face. And her grass type is a Grovyle, so he's pretty fast. For now though, he only knows Absorb, so Essentia is able to pretty easily tank a few attacks and knock him out before he can do any real damage. And since the rest of May's team is a joke, the battle is easily won. But you know what isn't a joke? How simple and easy it is to set up a website with this video's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is an online platform that helps you build and manage your own website, whether that's an online store for your business or a personal blog for your thoughts. At this point, everyone has either struggled to set up their own website or heard me complain about how frustrating it can be. There's a lot to keep track of, and the interfaces can often be incredibly confusing. Fortunately, website management has never been easier with Squarespace. Squarespace streamlines the whole process of setting up and running a website, making it simple to quickly design polished websites using their customizable templates. Look at this adorable website that I made for my corgi puppy Poppy using Squarespace. She is the cutest puppy ever, and Squarespace helped me share her with the world. Squarespace also has a ton of other really useful features, like analytic information about the traffic of your website, the ability to add and play embedded videos directly on your website, and Squarespace member areas, which can be used to connect with your audience and create exclusive members-only content. So if you're looking to start a website for your business or hobby without any hassle or complications, then you should absolutely check out squarespace.com for a free trial. And after no time at all, when you're ready to launch your website, you can use my custom link to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. The links are in the description below. Thanks so much to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Now, let's get back to the challenge. Alright, now we've made it to Mauville City and the third gym. Watson has electric types, which would normally be pretty scary for our water types to deal with. However, we have Aquafina, who is immune to electric types thanks to his secondary ground type. It's still not totally free though, because Watson leads with a Voltorb that can self-destruct. And they're very likely to go for self-destruct against Aquafina, since he resists or is immune to all of Voltorb's other attacks. So to be safer, I lead with Perrier to try to take down the Voltorb before it self-destructs. But Perrier is way too weak to do any real damage, so eventually the Voltorb uses self-destruct and wipes out our little Lilypad Koopa. That's such a bummer. I was really looking forward to him learning Fury Swipes and Water Sport in a few levels. Oh, what could have been? Rest well. From here, Aquafina comes out and is able to mudshot the rest of Watson's team. Magneton misses a Supersonic to speed up the process, which is nice. We do miss a mudshot on the Manectric, and he manages to survive 2 of them, so Manectric is able to get off 2 very strong Howl-boosted quick attacks, the latter of which would actually have killed Aquafina if it crit. But thankfully it didn't, so we win the third gym badge. With Perrier buried and mourned, there's a new spot on the team, so I evolve Poland Springs into Gyarados, and he joins the team. And with the new level cap, I'm also able to evolve Dasani into a Pelipper. Pelipper learns Protect by level up, so she's going to be incredibly useful for the 5th gym battle against my father Norman. But first we have to fight Flannery. Well, actually first we have to bully Maxie into not blowing up a volcano, but since his ace is a Camerupt and we have water types, it's about as easy as you might expect. Similarly, believe it or not, Flannery is not particularly difficult either. Her first 3 Pokemon all go down to a single water gun from Dasani. Her rash nature is really doing wonders here. Flannery's last Pokemon, her Torkoal, is a bit bulkier, so Water Gun doesn't do too much, and Body Slam is actually doing a decent amount in return. Water Gun isn't even a 2-shot, so Flannery gets to heal back to full HP with a Hyper Potion. Miraculously, Dasani hasn't been paralyzed yet, so I just fire off another Water Gun to bring Torkoal back into the red as she sets up a sunny day. So Flannery does heal again, and Dasani hits a now much weaker Water Gun. Then I go for a Protect to stall out the sun. Torkoal's going for a sun-boosted Overheat now, so I switch to Vitamin, who tanks the hit fairly well. There's one more turn of Sun, so I decide to risk the crit Overheat on Vitamin and hit Torkoal with a weak Bubble Beam. But Torkoal just goes for an Attract. We don't have time for a love affair though, so I switch to Aquafina on a Body Slam now that the sun is gone. And then I fire off a Mud Shot into Torkoal as she goes for another Attract. This Torkoal ain't loyal. So it's back to her former lover Vitamin, who tanks a Body Slam, which finally does get a Paralysis, but a Cherry Berry heals it. And so a final vengeful Bubble Beam seals the unfaithful Torkoal's fate. That's badge number 4. Now, I know what you're thinking. Flygon, you said that this challenge was going to have horrendous misplays and terrible deaths. Well, we're halfway through the challenge and all we've lost is a Pokemon whose best attacking move is Nature Power. I get it. I promise death. Well, if this story has chapters, then this next one, Chapter 5, would be titled Massacre at the Petalburg Gym. Norman can be a pretty tough fight, since all his Pokemon hit fairly hard and fairly fast, and we don't have a single resistance. We also don't have any super effective moves other than Rock Smash, which is 20 base power in this game. So this was always going to be a pretty tough fight. But before I even get to Norman, I have to face cool trainer Jody with her Zangoose. I lead with Vitamin. The Zangoose instantly outspeeds Vitamin and sets up a Swords Dance, which is, not great. It's also not great that a Secret Power from Vitamin is not a 2-shot. So on the next turn, Zangoose hits a Slash, which does a huge chunk of damage, though at the very least it doesn't crit. So Vitamin gets off another Secret Power and brings Zangoose into the red. So I switch to Poland Springs on the next turn, and then Jody heals with a Hyper Potion, something that I did not know that she could actually do. Fortunately, Poland Springs is faster and is able to hit a Dragon Rage for exactly 40 damage, which brings Zangoose into the yellow, something that almost always means that the Pokemon is at half health or less. And since Poland Springs barely survived a Slash, I figured that on the next turn I can just use Dragon Rage to finish off the Zangoose. But the Zangoose hangs on with 1 HP, and knocks out Poland Springs with another Slash. That's a bit of a bummer, but I never wanted to use Gyarados in the long run anyways. The full-blown Shakespearean tragedy is what happens next when I bring in Essentia, assuming that he'll outspeed the Zangoose, only for him to get cleanly knocked out by a single Slash before I can even say oops. Yet another casualty at the hands of man's arrogance. How many times must we learn the lesson that we are not gods? Forgive me, Essentia. Well, Dasani comes out, survives the Slash, and finishes off the Zangoose, so I did manage to not get wiped by cool trainer Jody, who frankly isn't that cool. You know what's cool, Jody? Not killing my friends. Well, now this means that I have to face Norman with just 4 Pokemon, one of which is a Goldeen, so let's see how that goes. Norman leads with a Spinda, and I lead with Vitamin. Spinda goes for a Fachade for a small amount of damage. Then Vitamin hits a strong Secret Power, which also paralyzes the Spinda. Very lucky, because it means that we can now outspeed on the next turn and kill the Spinda with a second Secret Power. That brings out Vigoroth. He outspeeds and hits a Slash as we retaliate with a Secret Power. Then Vigoroth hits a critical hit Slash and we retaliate with another Secret Power. So now I switch out to Aquafina as Vigoroth goes for another Slash. We then tank another Slash on the next turn and Aquafina goes for a Dig. This knocks out the Vigoroth, so third is Lanoon. He knows Belly Drum and is faster than all of my Pokemon, so this is really scary to play around. Lanoon hits a Slash and Aquafina goes for a Mud Shot, which lowers Lanoon's speed and does a little less than half of Lanoon's HP. So on the next turn I go for a Dig, just hoping that it'll be enough for the kill since Dig has slightly more base power. But it comes up just short. So Lanoon hits another hard Slash, knocking out Aquafina. That's now 3 friends slain under my father's roof. How many more have to die before it's over? I bring in Deer Park. Norman then uses a Hyper Potion. So our follow-up Horn attack does pretty embarrassing damage. I go for another one, and then Lanoon hits a Facade. So I go for another Horn attack. And then Lanoon gets a critical hit, killing sweet, innocent Deer Park. This Lanoon is a monster that I am clearly not remotely prepared for. I bring in Dasani to hit a Water Gun, but that doesn't even kill the Lanoon either. So we get hit by a Facade. And then Norman uses another Hyper Potion. So I just have to desperately hit Water Guns until Lanoon goes down and hope that he doesn't crit. Thankfully, he doesn't get a crit, so at long last, this fiendish Lanoon falls. Last for Norman is Slaking, but since Dasani has Protect, it is completely safe to Protect when Slaking is going for an attack, and then hit soft Water Guns when Slaking is loafing around. It takes many turns, but we do eventually take out the Slaking before running out of Protect BP. With that, we've won the battle, and the Massacre at the Petalburg Gym is over. Now, despite having to plan 4 separate funerals, there is a silver lining. With the ability to surf, not only do all my Pokemon now finally get an incredibly powerful Stab Water type move to use, I am also able to head to Route 118 and get a Good Rod. This means we can get a bunch of more friends from all around Hoenn. So, it's time for a fishing montage. Hit those horns. And just like that, after 30 full minutes of using the definitely not tedious and stupid fishing mechanics, we have a full team of 6 again. And with some training, most of our new friends evolve. Arrowhead evolves into Sharpedo, a speedy and powerful glass cannon. Voss evolves into Crawdon, a worse in almost every way version of Sharpedo. And Mineral evolves into Whiscash. I made sure to delay Mineral's evolution by a level so that she can learn Earthquake. So yeah, our team is suddenly looking pretty good. Which is perfect because now we have to face our rival May again. She now has a Grovyle with Leaf Blade, and since we no longer have Essentia the Tentacool, this is actually a bit more challenging. Fortunately, Dasani still takes neutral damage from Leaf Blade and can retaliate with Wing Attack. May leads with Slugma, and I lead with Arrowhead, who instantly kills her with a Surf. That brings out Grovyle. So I switch to Dasani, who instantly gets crit by a Leaf Blade. Yeah, what's that saying about playing around the crit? When are you supposed to do that? Well, this is obviously very bad, since Grovyle very likely outspeeds almost all of our Pokemon. So it's time for some sacks. I switch to Phoebe, who actually manages to tank a non-critical hit Leaf Blade, but it doesn't matter. I need a safe switch, so unlike Captain Ahab's White Whale, this one goes down. I've actually never read that book, so I don't know if he gets the whale at the end, so maybe that reference is wrong. But either way, Phoebe is dead. This lets me bring in Arrowhead for free. I'm hoping a secret power causes paralysis here, but it doesn't, so Arrowhead also goes down to a Leaf Blade. Something the shark from Jaws. Okay, so now I bring in Vitamin. He thankfully does not get crit by a Leaf Blade, so he's able to hang on and kill the Grovyle with another secret power, meaning that we don't wipe here. Lombre comes out last for May and flinches Vitamin with a Fake Out. Then she goes for a nature power, but the resulting Swift doesn't do much, so I hit her with a secret power. Then I switch to Voss, who shrugs off an Absorb. So after tanking another nature power turned Swift, Voss finally finishes off the Lombre with a secret power, winning us the battle. But boy does that not feel particularly good, because that's now 7 deaths before the 6th gym badge in a run that I thought would be a piece of cake. Now fortunately, the 6th gym is super easy with Dasani. I taught her Ice Beam, so she's able to one-shot the Swablu that Winona leads with, as well as the Tropius that comes in second. Pelipper is out third though. She starts with a Protect, but I read it and go for a Stockpile. Then it's an Ice Beam as Pelipper misses a Supersonic. Then it's another Ice Beam, which freezes the big dumb bird. Winona heals with a Hyper Potion, so we just keep firing away with Ice Beams. I decide to finish her off with a Surf to save some Ice Beam PP. Fourth is Skarmory, so we knock her out with 2 Surfs as she just does small damage with an Aerial Ace. And then last for Winona is Altaria, who almost always goes for a Dragon Dance first, so an Ice Beam knocks her out in one shot as well, winning us a very easy 6th gym badge. This now unlocks the whole eastern part of Hoenn, which is predominantly water, so you can imagine that there are actually quite a few new encounters for us to get. First, I go to the Safari Zone and catch a Psyduck. I name him Aquapana. He soon evolves into Golduck, which is a fairly decent Pokemon. After that, I have to do some thwarting. Both Maxie and Archie have some pretty evil weather plans. Personally, I'm more partial to what Archie is cooking up, since the permanent rain would be nice for my water types, but to progress the story, we will have to squash his beautiful vision. Before that though, we head to Mossdeep City where I can get a Super Rod, which yet again gives me access to more encounters. In Lilycove City, I fish up a Staryu and name them Evian. And then on Route 134, I catch a Horsey and name him Smart. I also head to Shoal Cave to catch a Spheal. I name the adorable little spherical seal Icelandic. For now, only Smart joins the team as he evolves into Seadra. Ideally, I'd like to also evolve Seadra into Kingdra, but in order to do that, you actually need to get a Dragon Scale. And the only way I can get a Dragon Scale in this playthrough is by thieving them from Wild Horsey or Wild Bagon. both of which only have a 5% chance of holding a Dragon Scale. I don't have access to Bagon yet, and after spending about 15 minutes trying to fish up a Horsey and only finding 2, neither of which had Dragon Scale, I decide that it's not really worth it at this time. Seadra's still a pretty solid Pokemon, and I can just get a Dragon Scale much faster from finding Bagon and Meteor Falls after the 8th Gym Badge. So, Smart stays as a Seadra as we go to face Tate and Liza in a double battle. They lead with Claydol and Xatu, and I lead with Smart and Aquapanna. Unfortunately, the Xatu is able to outspeed both of my Pokemon and set up a Calm Mind, so a combination of Ice Beam from Smart and Surf from Aquapanna do not kill the Xatu. Claydol also doesn't even take 50% from the Surf and fires off a hard Earthquake. Xatu then just straight up kills Smart with a boosted Psychic. I don't know what I was doing there. I bring in Dasani thinking that Claydol will go for another Earthquake. Another Surf from Aquapanna leaves both Xatu and Claydol in the red, and then Claydol hits a Psychic on Dasani for a good chunk of damage. No Earthquake, I guess. Tate and Liza then use Hyper Potions on both of their Pokemon as a combination of Surf and Ice Beam, yet again don't do much to either of their Pokemon. Then Xatu hits another Psychic and kills Dasani. Obviously. I just really wasn't expecting the Xatu to give me so much trouble, but she's absolutely eviscerating my whole team. I bring in Voss, which is probably what I should have done when Xatu was targeting Smart and Dasani with Psychics. Another underwhelming Surf from Aquapanna once again fails to kill either Xatu or Claydol. Really regretting calling you pretty decent 5 minutes ago, Aquapanna. Claydol goes for an Earthquake this time, yet again predicting my switch. I decide to switch Aquapanna out into Vitamin as Xatu goes for a Psychic. He tanks it fairly well, all things considered, but the Psychic does get the special defense drop, which means that Claydol's follow-up Psychic now kills Vitamin. This is an absolute bloodbath. Well, I bring Mineral in, and at the very least a Surf from Voss kills both Xatu and Claydol. But now Solrock and Lunatone come out. Lunatone outspeeds both our Pokemon and gets off a Calm Mind. Solrock also outspeeds and starts absorbing light from a Solar Beam. Our double Surfs do basically nothing to Lunatone and just barely miss out on the kill against Solrock, whose Citrus Berry now activates. Then, since I foolishly did not teach Protect to any of my Pokemon, Lunatone sets up a Light Screen, and Solrock completely eviscerates Voss with a Solar Beam. So I bring out Aquapanna as Mineral hits a Surf, but thanks to Light Screen, that now does very little damage and does not kill Solrock. Tate and Liza then use a third Hyper Potion on Solrock, but it actually ends up not mattering because Aquapanna gets a lucky critical hit with Surf to knock out the Solrock. A follow-up Psychic from Lunatone does kill him though, so now it's just Mineral versus Lunatone. But of course, a Surf from Mineral leaves Lunatone in the red. Tate and Liza then use a fourth freaking Hyper Potion to heal Lunatone. So, Mineral is not able to kill Lunatone before they knock her out with a few Psychics. So that's a wipe. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that I would fully wipe during this challenge. But that's what I get for playing fast and loose. I've been doing very little prep for these battles simply because I didn't think that they'd be that hard. And I was rushing through this playthrough. One of the best ways to get better at Nuzlockes is to be patient and do things slowly. So many avoidable Nuzlocke deaths are because the player got impatient and didn't take the time to fully think through what was happening. Other than game knowledge, it's probably the most important skill to have when Nuzlocking. Though to be fair, it is much harder to do in the heat of the moment than when you're passively watching a video. Anyways, it's back to square one. The early game is pretty much all the same until I get to the third gym battle against Watson. My Pokemon are all a little different. Some genders are changed, some abilities are different, their natures and IVs are completely different, but I do keep the same nicknames. This time, against Watson, I decide to lead with Poland Springs to get an Intimidate off on his Voltorb. Then I switch straight to Aquafina on a Shockwave. The Voltorb then immediately yeets themselves out of existence, but Aquafina tanks the hit fairly well. Though you can see that if Self-Destruct had crit, we'd probably wipe here. But since it didn't, Aquafina can now Mudshot his way through Watson's entire team. We do take a Sonic Boom from Magneton, so we are at pretty low health when Manectric comes out. He howls as I go for a Mudshot. This procs a Citrus Berry, so another Mudshot won't finish him off. So I hit a Mud Slap as Manectric goes for another Howl. Then I switch to Poland Springs to get off an Intimidate as Manectric goes for a Quick Attack, which does miss. Then I switch back to Aquafina on a Thunder Wave. And then it's back to Poland Springs for another Intimidate as Manectric hits a soft Quick Attack. So, one last switch to Aquafina here on a Thunder Wave, and then Manectric misses another quick attack, and we finally hit a Mud Shot to finish him off, winning us the Deathless 3rd gym badge. That was much better. Okay, let's fast forward to the next major obstacle of the challenge, which apparently is Cool Trainer Judy. This time I lead with Poland Springs, who by the way has an adamant nature, and we kill this asshat with 2 strengths before she can do any damage. Turns out, Gyarados is pretty good. Now it's Norman round 2, and this time we have our Gyarados as well as Essentia, who has evolved into a Tentacruel. He again leads with Spinda, and I lead with Poland Springs, who gets off an Intimidate. A Strength almost kills Spinda, and then we shrug off a Facade. Norman heals, so it takes 2 more strengths to kill the Spinda. Second is Vigoroth. We outspeed and hit a strength as he retaliates with a Fachade. Then we hit another strength, but that leaves him with a Sliver, so Vigoroth does get off another Facade. I think Norman's gonna heal here, so I stay in, but he doesn't, so another strength takes out Vigoroth. Lanoon is third. I'm very likely at risk to a critical hit here, but I don't want Lanoon setting up a belly drum when I switch, so I stay in. He outspeeds and hits a Headbutt, which doesn't crit, but it does flinch. So now I just switch to Aquafina on another Headbutt. The Lanoon then hits a critical hit Facade as Aquafina goes for a Mud Shot, which does lower Lanoon's speed. So then I switch to Dasani on a Slash. Then I go for a Water Gun as Lanoon hits another Slash. I can't afford to risk Dasani on a crit here, so I switch to Essentia, who gets hit by a Facade. So with a final Bubble Beam, Lanoon survives in the red. So, Norman heals, and we hit another Bubble Beam. Seems like that last one was a low roll, but now it looks like Bubble Beam will be a 3-hit kill. So I hit another Bubble Beam, and then Lanoon gets a critical hit with Slash, killing Essentia. RIP, little jelly. I bring in Dasani to finish off this serial killer of a Lanoon with a final Water Gun. So last is Slaking, but it's just the classic protect and whittle him down with Water Gun strat. This time I make sure to have a Lepa Berry to restore Protect PP in case I need it, but I don't. No need to show this again, it works out fine, and we win the battle, though it did cost us 1 squishy squid. That death is a bit inconvenient too, because now it's time for May and her Leaf Blade Grovyle. This time I lead with Dasani so that I don't have to switch in on a critical hit. A Surf kills the Slugma. Lombre comes in second, so I protect as she goes for Fake Out. Then I hit a Wing Attack, which doesn't kill, so Lombre hits a Soft Absorb. But then a second Wing Attack is enough for the kill. So last is Grovyle. Dasani tanks a Leaf Blade and retaliates with a Wing Attack. Unfortunately, that doesn't get the kill, and now Grovyle is sitting in Overgrow range. In hindsight, I probably should have taught Dasani Ice Beam for this fight. A Citrus Berry means that Dasani likely doesn't die if Grovyle doesn't crit, but I don't want to risk him here, so I switch to Poland Springs. Grovyle does get a Leaf Blade crit, but Poland Springs manages to survive. And fortunately on the next turn, she is able to outspeed and kill the Grovyle with the Dragon Rage, winning us the battle. Now it's time for Winona. In this attempt, Dasani doesn't have as much special attack as she did in attempt 1, so we aren't able to pick up kills quite as easily as before. Meaning that by the time that we get to Altaria, we're at about half health. Altaria then goes for a Dragon Breath here instead of Dragon Dance. In all my time playing Pokemon Emerald, this might be the first time that I've ever seen this Altaria not use Dragon Dance on turn 1. That's really bizarre. She does survive our Ice Beam, so I have to switch to Vitamin, who gets paralyzed by a Dragon Breath on the switch. Then Altaria hits a critical hit Dragon Breath, and somehow a Strength just does not kill Altaria. Huge power is a myth. So on the next turn I switch to Deer Park, who has now survived long enough to evolve into Seaking, as Altaria now goes for a Dragon Dance. Deer Park then tanks an Earthquake much better than I would have expected, and kills the Altaria with a Horn Attack, winning us a slightly scary 6 gym badge. Okay, we're almost back to where we wiped. There's a few differences to note here though. I accidentally killed the Carvana on Route 118, so I have to fish up another one on Route 119. This means that I can't get Feebas from that route, but there was very little chance that I was going to do that anyways. Since Aquafina is alive and well in this attempt, I'm able to evolve him into a Swampert. Then I accidentally killed a Staryu from Lily Cove City with a critical hit from Deer Park. That's a big oof, because that's the only place to get Staryu. Whoopsies. Well, Fiji is also not dead, so he gets to evolve into a Wailord. Won't end up using him, but Wailord's still a pretty cool Pokemon. Okay, Tate and Liza round 2. Now that Arrowhead and Perrier aren't dead, I can lead with both of them. I start by using Fake Out on the Claydol, and then Arrowhead outspeeds and instantly kills the Xatu with a crunch. Already much better. Solrock comes out as Claydol flinches. Then I switch Perrier out into Aquapana as Arrowhead goes for a crunch onto Claydol, though that just barely misses out on the kill. Claydol is also able to hit a strong Earthquake, but it thankfully doesn't crit on Arrowhead. Solrock starts absorbing sunlight for a Solar Beam, but they'll never get it off. Tate and Liza heal Claydol with a Hyper Potion on the next turn, and then Arrowhead one-shots the Solrock with a crunch. This brings in Lunatone as Aquapana hits a Surf. So, then a Surf from Arrowhead and a follow-up Surf from Aquapana knock out the Lunatone and the Claydol, finally winning us the 7th Gym Badge. So, now that Tate and Liza are defeated, there's no real reason to keep 2 Water Dark types on the team. So Icelandic replaces Voss. Here I evolve our little round boy into a Celio, and then a Walrein. Now that we have access to the HM for Dive, I can head underwater for a few new encounters. On Route 124, I catch a Clamperl and name her Ethos. Then, on Route 126, I catch a Chinchou and name him Sparkling. Unfortunately, when I inspect these 2 new encounters, I realize that when you catch a Pokemon underwater, their caught location is underwater, not the route that you were on when you went underwater. Personally, when I do Nuzlocks, I use what is set in the Pokemon's catch location to determine if I can get a new encounter. Using that logic, it means that I can technically only get 1 Pokemon underwater, since they're all marked as the same catch location no matter what route you find the Pokemon on. It's kinda dumb in this situation, and I kinda want to make an exception here, but I feel like using the catch location is the most objective way to do this, so for the sake of maintaining the integrity of my rule set, no Chinchou. We're stuck with Clamperl. That's a bit disappointing because an electric type would be pretty useful for the rest of the game, especially since I accidentally killed my potential Starmie, which can learn Thunderbolt. But oh well. Instead, I decide to evolve Perrier into Ludicolo and bring him onto the team in place of Fiji. So now it's time for the whole Weather Wars thing. Groudon is very clearly outmatched here to the point where it's actually pretty ridiculous, but I gotta admire their guts. Fortunately, I'm able to tattle on them in time for Rayquaza to come and stop the fight before Kyogre murders Groudon with a 150 base power Water Spout. Alright, now it's time for the 8th and final gym leader Juan, who also has water types. The only one that's a real issue is Kingdra though, because he has Double Team and Rest, and I don't have a great way to quickly kill him. So instead, I decide to wing it. Juan leads with Love Disc and I lead with Arrowhead. Arrowhead outspeeds the Love Disc and hits her with a Crunch, which leaves her with a Sliver and also lowers her special defense. Arrowhead does then get hit by an Attract. Juan heals, but then Arrowhead is too horny to hit Love Disc on the next turn. So I switch to Aquapana, who gets hit with a Sweet Kiss. Then I go back to Arrowhead, who shrugs off a Water Pulse. And then a Crunch kills the Love Disc. Next is Whiscash. So I switch to the newly evolved Perrier, as Whiscash goes for an Amnesia. I start with a Fake Out for some chip as Whiscash flinches. Then I go for a Giga Drain, but thanks to the Amnesia boosts, it's not enough for the one-shot. Fortunately, Earthquake doesn't do much to Perrier in return, so a Surf finishes off the Whiscash. Juan sends out Celio next, who survives a Giga Drain in the red, and then hits a Body Slam, which paralyzes. That sucks. A lot. Perrier tanks an Aurora Beam on the next turn and then finishes off the Celio with a Rock Smash. So next is Kingdra, who instantly gets off a Double Team, and then Perrier gets fully paralyzed. Kingdra goes for another Double Team, and we miraculously hit a Giga Drain. Then Kingdra goes for a strong Ice Beam, and we miss a Giga Drain. Then he hits another Ice Beam, and we miss with our last Giga Drain PP, but a Lepa Berry gets all our PP back. What happens next is 20 minutes of tactically stalling out Kingdra's 10 Ice Beam PP and 15 Water Pulse PP, predominantly by switching to Icelandic on the Ice Beams. If I was smart, I would have given a bunch of my Pokemon Protect, but I didn't, so draw your own conclusions about my intelligence. It's not worth recapping the entire stall, but eventually we get to the point where Kingdra is out of PP and starts using Struggle. But by that point, our team is looking pretty ravaged. And Kingdra is actually doing decent damage with Struggle. We also can't connect with an Earthquake to save our lives. Fun fact, Struggle can also crit. So, once Kingdra is sufficiently low and Aquafina falls into critical hit range, I switch to Dasani, who does just barely survive a non-critical hit Struggle. Since at one point I hit a mud shot with Aquafina, we outspeed the Kingdra and hit an aerial ace, but somehow that just doesn't kill Kingdra even from this range, so Kingdra manages to kill Dasani with a struggle. Yeah, that's a thing that just happened. I lost a Pokemon to struggle. At the very least, Kingdra goes down as well. So I can bring in Perrier to deal with Crawdon, Juan's last Pokemon whose only attacking move is Crabhammer. Fortunately, after tanking a Crabhammer, Perrier is able to knock out the Crawdon with a critical hit Giga Drain, winning us a grueling 8th and final gym badge. Losing Dasani there sucks, because the champion Wallace has a double-teaming Ludicolo that Aerial Ace would have been really nice for. So I'll have to come up with something different for that. To replace Dasani, I bring Smart onto the team, though I make sure to delay her evolution into Seadra until level 51 so that she learns Dragon Dance. Then I head to Meteor Falls and start hitting Bagons with Thief. It actually only takes 2 Bagons until I manage to get a Dragon Scale, so that was lucky. Using the Dragon Scale, I trade Smart to my Uncle Jimtendo, and she evolves into a Kingdra. So, after ravaging through Wally's team of limp losers, we make it to the Elite Four. Here's my final team, leveled up to match Drake's Scary Salamence. This challenge has been an absolutely bizarre and wild ride. Let's see if we have what it takes to finish strong. First up is Sydney. He leads with Mightyena, and I lead with Aquapanna. A held White Herb negates the Intimidate attack drop, but that wasn't really worth it because Brick Break isn't even enough for the one-shot, despite the level difference. Mightyena then hits a Sand attack. So I switch to Smart as Sydney heals with a full restore. Then a Surf one-shots Mightyena. So yeah, Brick Break was not the play. Shiftry comes in next, but he doesn't know a grass move. He does, however, know Double Team, which is really annoying, especially because Return is not a 2-hit kill. I go for a Dragon Dance on the second turn to make Return a 2-hit kill as Shiftry uses Torment. Then I miss a Return and Shiftry uses Swagger. So I switch to Arrowhead, who is immune to Shiftry's only attacking move, Extrasensory. I miss a Return and then get hit by a Swagger. So I switch to Icelandic as Shiftry goes for another Double Team. Then Shiftry uses Torment, and we miss an Ice Beam. I can't use Ice Beam again because of the Torment, so I go for Encore, but miss that as well. Then Shiftry uses Swagger. Icelandic breaks through the confusion, but misses the Ice Beam. So I switch to Arrowhead on an Extrasensory, and miss a Return. Then I get hit by a Swagger. So I switch to Perrier, who gets subjected to a Torment. And then, finally, and rather ironically, Shiftry misses a Swagger, and we hit an Ice Beam, knocking out that very annoying Pokemon. If Pokemon could just retire the move Double Team entirely, that would be absolutely amazing. Absol is third, so I switch to Aquafina as he goes for a Swords Dance. Then we hit an Earthquake, which obviously just barely does not one-shot Absol, but the Absol just goes for another Swords Dance. So one more Earthquake knocks him out. Next is Cacturn, who does have a Grass move, so I switch to Perrier, who brushes off the Needle Arm. Then I go for a Fake Out for some Chip, and then we outspeed and kill the Cacturn with an Ice Beam. Last is Crawdon, so a Giga Drain knocks him out in one shot as our Shell Bell brings Perrier back to full HP. That's one Elite Four member down. Second is Phoebe and her Ghost types, but we've got Arrowhead, so this is pretty easy. The Dusclops always protects first, so our first Crunch doesn't do anything. But then the second Crunch knocks out Dusclops in one shot. Bayonet is out next since she knows Thunderbolt, but a Crunch knocks her out in one shot as well. Sableye is third, but a critical hit Surf knocks her out in one shot too. Neat. Don't have to worry about Double Team with that one. Fourth is Phoebe's bigger Dusclops. She hangs on from a Crunch and hits a pretty hard critical hit Earthquake as payback for one-shotting Sableye. But then another Crunch knocks her out. And then the same thing happens to Phoebe's second Bayonet, netting us a very easy victory. Third is Glacia. I lead with Aquapanna. Ursilio loves setting up Hail, so I just go for a Calm Mind since Aquapanna's Cloud 9 ability negates the effects of weather anyways. Then I hit a Brick Break, which isn't nearly enough for the one-shot. Celio hits a Body Slam, which fortunately doesn't paralyze, so on the next turn, another Brick Break finishes off Celio, and we gain some HP back with a Shell Bell. Glalie is next, but even with the Calm Mind boost, a Surf from Aquapanna isn't quite enough to one-shot her. Story of Aquapanna's life. She gets hit by an Icy Wind. Glacia heals on the next turn, and then Aquapanna hits another Surf. Thanks to the speed drop from Icy Wind, Glalie outspeeds to hit a Crunch, but then a third Surf knocks her out. The second Celio is next, but this one just falls to a single critical hit Brick Break. So now it's the second Glalie. This one has Explosion, so this is actually kinda scary. She sets up Hail, and then a Brick Break brings the Glalie into the yellow. I switch to Icelandic fearing an Explosion, but Glalie just uses Shadow Ball. Then our Blubbery Walrus somehow outspeeds and kills the Glalie on the next turn with a Surf. So now it's Walrein vs Walrein. I try to paralyze Glacia's Walrein with a Body Slam until she shows me that Surf does more damage. After tanking 2 Surfs, I'm now in range to a critical hit, so I switch to Perrier. Then Walrein hits a hard critical hit Ice Beam. But since she doesn't also freeze, we can retaliate with a Giga Drain, which leaves Walrein with a Sliver. Yeah, should've gone for Fake Out, but I was impatient. Well, I switch to Aquapana as Glacia heals. Then it's just a few Brick Breaks as we tank Body Slams that fortunately don't paralyze. So, with that, the battle's won. Last for the Elite Four is Drake, so I lead with Aquapana as Drake leads Shelgon. This thing loves going for Protect, so I use Calm Mind. Then an Ice Beam takes him out in one shot. Altaria is second and also goes down to an Ice Beam. Third is Kingdra, so I stick around to fire off an Ice Beam, and then Kingdra goes for a Dragon Dance. He then outspeeds and hits a Body Slam as we hit another Ice Beam and gain some HP back with Shell Bell. Drake now goes for a full restore as we hit another Ice Beam. Kingdra then gets greedy and goes for another Dragon Dance here, so we hit yet another Ice Beam, and this one freezes. Unfortunately, Kingdra does instantly defrost, so he hits a hard Body Slam, but since it doesn't crit, Aquapana survives and knocks out the Kingdra. So fourth is Flygon. I assume with the random speed EVs that I picked up here and there, and with the badge boost, that Aquapana would outspeed Drake's Flygon. But sadly, I underestimated just how speedy he was. So Flygon outspeeds and knocks out Aquapana. RIP buddy, a little too slow and a little too weak will be your legacy. Regardless, thank you for your sacrifice. I bring in Perrier next. Flygon uses Earthquake for a small chunk of damage, and then we one-shot him with an Ice Beam. Salamence is next. He hits a strong Dragon Claw, but even a crit wouldn't have killed, so Perrier is safe to knock him out with a single Ice Beam as well. With that, the Elite Four has been defeated. So, last up is Wallace, the Water Type Master. Or at least he was the Water Type Master until I stepped onto the scene. Let's do this, Wallace. He leads with Wailord, and I lead with Perrier. I start with a Fake Out for some chip. On the next turn, Wailord outspeeds and hits a pretty strong Double Edge. And then we hit a Giga Drain, which comes up just short of the knockout. So Wallace uses a full restore, and I go for a Surf so that I'm not wasting a bunch of Giga Drain PP. Then Wailord uses another Double Edge, and somehow another Giga Drain doesn't kill either. But at least we're back to full HP. So Wailord hits another Double Edge, and the recoil takes him out. Not a great start though. Next is Tentacruel, so I switch to Aquafina, who shrugs off a Sludge Bomb. Then Tentacruel just goes for a Toxic before Earthquake knocks him out in one shot. Third is Wallace's Ludicolo, so I switch back to Perrier on a Giga Drain. Then I go for a Fake Out for some chip. And then Wallace's Ludicolo uses Double Team as I fortunately connect with a Giga Drain. Wallace's Ludicolo then goes for a Giga Drain of his own, and then we retaliate with a Giga Drain of our own. And then it's a Protect to stall out PP. Ludicolo uses yet another Giga Drain, which thankfully doesn't crit. So this lets Perrier miraculously connect with yet another Giga Drain. And then we use Protect to stall Ludicolo out of his last Giga Drain PP. So now Wallace's Ludicolo starts going for Surf. And I do the same. And then I switch to Icelandic on another Surf. And then on the next turn I Encore the sucker. This lets me switch to Smart and start setting up Dragon Dances. I managed to get 4 Dragon Dances off before Ludicolo's Encore ends. So a Return connects on the next turn and knocks out the Ludicolo. From here, Gyarados comes out and Smart gets hit with an Intimidate. So a Return doesn't finish off the Gyarados, but he just goes for a Dragon Dance of his own, so we still outspeed on the next turn and knock him out with a second Return. Fifth is Whiscash, so I stay in and hit a Return, knowing that it likely won't kill. Unfortunately, Whiscash then gets a critical hit Earthquake, which knocks out Smart. Rest well, buddy. Well, I bring in Perrier and go for a Fake Out to bring Whiscash into healing range. I'm not sure if the crit actually mattered or if a non-crit would have triggered a heal as well. Regardless, Wallace does heal, which lets Perrier fire off a massive Giga Drain and gain a ton of HP back as the Whiscash falls back down into the red. It's actually amazingly lucky that we don't kill the Whiscash here, because Wallace heals again. And then we high roll with Giga Drain, which gets Perrier back to full HP as the Whiscash goes down. So last for Wallace is Milotic. A Lepa Berry activates here to gain back my Giga Drain PP as well. I start with a Protect, thinking that I may have to stall this thing out of PP. And then on the next turn, Milotic's Ice Beam hits hard, and Perrier follows up with a Giga Drain that doesn't do quite as much damage as I was hoping it would, but we do gain back most of the HP we lost from Ice Beam. So we tank another Ice Beam and hit another Giga Drain, which activates Milotic's Citrus Berry. Then we tank another Ice Beam, and another Giga Drain brings Milotic into the red. So I switch to Icelandic as Wallace heals. Then Milotic hits a pretty hard Surf, and we lock him into it with Encore. So then I switch back to Perrier, who is now taking very little damage from Surf. I'm able to get off 2 Giga Drains before Milotic's Encore ends. I figured that he'll use Recover here, but he just doesn't. So one more Giga Drain knocks him out, winning us the battle and the run. That was easily one of the most surprising runs I've ever done. I had no idea I would struggle that much at certain points, and as I said before, I never thought that I would wipe. Playing through Emerald is a blast, and it's been a while since I've used some of these Pokemon. I don't know if I've ever actually used Kingdra, so this was definitely a fun one. Hopefully it was fun to watch as well. Either way, as always, thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy watching, please like the video and subscribe. Or don't, I don't know. But I do know that you should follow me on Twitter and Twitch to keep up with streams of my future challenges. You should also subscribe to my highlights channel to get highlights of the challenge that I'm currently streaming before it's cut down to a video on the main channel. And be sure to join the Flag on HG community Discord where you can discuss Nuzlocking and contribute to future challenges. The links to everything are in the description below. Stay tuned for more Nuzlocke videos, and until then, remember to always, always, always play around the critical hit.